When someone says the word Gucci, you don't think of a person's name, you think of people's products. Indeed, those iconic hooked double Gs, horsebit loafers and unmistakable red and green stripes signal luxury to even the most fashion-unconscious observer. You see, over the decades, Gucci has transcended its origins as a family business to become aspiration incarnate, appearing in everything from hip-hop lyrics to red carpet commentary. And yet, the fascinating contradiction is that while all of us recognize the brand, almost no one could name a single living Gucci family member, despite their descendants still wielding an over $800 million fortune. Yes, the daughters who inherited this legendary surname now deliberately shun the spotlight their ancestors once courted, likely due to soul-crushing tragedies they experienced, practically since the days they were born. Thus, in today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we'll open up private window for you in the life of fashion's most enigmatic heiresses, whose hidden wealth is only matched, perhaps, by the immense heartbreak they've had to endure. Let's be brutally honest. Fashion dynasties typically produce spoiled socialites with nothing to offer beyond Instagram poses and daddy's credit card. The Gucci daughters, however, defy every expectation, choosing invisibility despite possessing one of the world's most recognizable surnames. Alessandra and Allegra Gucci sit atop a combined fortune of $400 million each, money that bought them everything except escape from arguably becoming fashion's most tragic heiresses. Born in 1977 and 1981, these sisters inherited wealth that would make billionaires jealous, and simultaneously a family trauma so spectacular it could fuel a dozen Hollywood thrillers. And their father gifted them 2 historic yachts, Creole, the world's largest wooden sailing vessel, and the magnificent Arvel, floating palaces that now serve as nautical memorials to a murdered patriarch. Their property inventory could make even royalty blush. A $35 million New York penthouse in Olympic Tower, lavish chalets in St. Moritz, sprawling residences in Milan, and their current Swiss sanctuaries where they hide from their notorious family history. Yet Alessandra and Allegra represent merely one branch of this tragically wealthy family tree. Patricia Gucci, daughter of family patriarch Aldo, began life as a smuggled secret, her very existence criminalized in an Italy where adultery landed people in prison, not just gossip columns. This illegitimate love child eventually became the sole heir to her father's empire, perhaps the most delicious plot twist in the entire Gucci soap opera. Patricia now lords over a sprawling Palm Desert compound you could rent for $28,000 monthly if you're feeling particularly flush with cash, plus her Swiss village estate in Gsteig, which she calls her picturesque alpine haven with typical Gucci understatement. Unlike her publicity-shy cousins, Patricia embraced the entrepreneurial DNA, launching Aviteur in 2019, creating luxury luggage for people who find Louis Vuitton too common and pedestrian. These Gucci women share DNA, unconscionable wealth, and the curse of carrying fashion's most notorious surname. Alessandra briefly attempted her fashion coronation, releasing just 99 handbags under her AG label in 2008 exclusivity that would make even Hermes blush. Though the actual Gucci brand escaped family control in 1993, these women remain the flesh and blood embodiment of a dynasty that transformed from humble Florentine leather shop to global billion-dollar behemoth. They've experienced highs that would induce vertigo in most mortals and lows that would crush ordinary souls, all while bearing a 5-letter surname instantly recognized from Manhattan to Mongolia. What truly separates these heiresses from garden-variety trust fund babies isn't their obscene wealth, it's the blood-soaked price they've paid for being born Gucci. The founding of the Gucci empire began with a humble Italian porter at London's Savoy Hotel, where Guccio Gucci studied the luggage of aristocrats who never noticed the man who carried their belongings. After absorbing these observations, Guccio returned to Florence and gained employment at Franci, a distinguished leather goods manufacturer where he mastered techniques that would form the foundation of his own approach to craftsmanship. In 1921, Guccio opened a small shop on Via della Vigna Nuova, unremarkable to passers-by but destined to become the birthplace of a luxury empire. His earliest clients came from Florence's equestrian circles, with his workshop producing saddles of exceptional quality that established connections to horsemanship still visible in the brand's design motifs today. When Italy's trade embargo during the 1930s limited access to materials, Guccio created a diamond-patterned canvas as a leather substitute, unwittingly developing one of fashion's most recognizable patterns. World War II pushed his artisans toward greater ingenuity as they worked with bamboo and cotton canvas, when leather proved unobtainable, constraints that produced the now legendary bamboo bag in 1947. While Guccio remained rooted in tradition, his sons, Aldo, Vasco, Rodolfo, and Ugo, recognized possibilities for expansion beyond Italy's borders at a time when Italian craftsmanship gained unprecedented global appreciation. Aldo, who began working in his father's shop at 16, possessed commercial instincts that complemented his father's artisanal focus, enabling him to envision international markets where Guccio saw only foreigners indifferent to Florentine tradition. The opening of Gucci's first American location in New York in 1953 came just weeks after Guccio's death, as if Aldo had respectfully awaited his father's passing before transforming the business into something the founder might not have recognized. American movie stars became unofficial ambassadors for the brand when photographs of Ingrid Bergman carrying her bamboo-handled Gucci bag in Roberto Rossellini's film circulated worldwide in 1954. The brand achieved particular distinction when President John F. Kennedy described Aldo as the first Italian ambassador to fashion, providing presidential recognition of Italian craftsmanship's growing influence on American luxury. Under the triumvirate leadership of brothers Aldo, Vasco, and Rodolfo, the distinctive double G insignia spread from aristocratic circles to Hollywood celebrities, establishing a visual shorthand for Italian craftsmanship and social prestige. What began as one craftsman's workshop expanded into an empire spanning continents within a single generation, bringing unprecedented wealth alongside the seeds of familial discord that would germinate in coming decades. As the commercial triumph of Gucci grew exponentially, the massive fortune created by Guccio and multiplied by his sons would ultimately flow to granddaughters who inherited not just extraordinary wealth, but also the toxic legacy of a family whose business success far outpaced their capacity for harmony. In November of 1970, Patrizia Reggiani first encountered Maurizio Gucci at a Milan society party, her huge purple eyes immediately assessing the awkward heir to half the Gucci empire as both romantic prospect and social elevator. Maurizio, thoroughly captivated by the petite, vivacious Patrizia, declared it love at first sight, despite their temperamental differences that observers called equal opposites in personality. Their courtship faced vehement opposition from Maurizio's father, Rodolfo, who dismissed Patrizia as an uncouth social climber and threatened disinheritance, declaring, "This isn't about love, this is about her wanting to get her hands on our money." When Rodolfo's opposition intensified to the point of appealing to Milan's cardinal to halt their wedding, Maurizio made his choice by packing a suitcase and leaving his father's home, choosing Patrizia over his inheritance. The couple married on October 28, 1972, with Maurizio subsequently finding employment in his new father-in-law's trucking business, while estranged from the Gucci fortune. In stark contrast, Aldo Gucci's relationship with Bruna Palombo began in 1958 as a forbidden affair between a married man and a young shopgirl from the Rome Gucci store, conducted in an Italy where adultery remained criminalized. Their relationship unfolded in shadow, with Aldo orchestrating company parties at his home when his English wife Olwyn was away, creating opportunities to pursue the woman who herself was engaged to another man. Through passionate letters arguing against surrendering to social convention, Aldo convinced Bruna to cancel her engagement, writing from experience, "Happiness is a spiritual blessing that not everyone is fortunate enough to find in marriage." Despite the risks, Aldo mentored Bruna professionally while treating her like his wife in every respect, other than by name, taking her to Paris for romantic weekends and to Naples for excursions to Capri in his Jaguar. Maurizio and Patrizia's union produced two daughters who would become extraordinary heiresses. Alessandra, born in 1977, and Allegra, born in 1981, both raised amid the splendor of one of fashion's ruling dynasties. Aldo and Bruna's relationship faced crisis when Bruna became pregnant in the early 1960s, a potential scandal that could have resulted in criminal charges in Italy's conservative society. To protect themselves, Aldo sent his pregnant mistress to London, where he had recently opened a Gucci boutique, and on March 1st, 1963, their daughter Patricia was born with Aldo present for the delivery. On the birth certificate, Aldo boldly listed himself and Bruna as Aldo and Bruna Gucci, creating an official document suggesting marriage, though Patricia's existence remained completely secret for her first year. Patricia's childhood unfolded in peculiar secrecy, with a Spanish nanny taking the baby for walks while her mother stayed indoors to avoid questions about unmarried motherhood. These parallel love stories, one defiantly public despite family opposition, the other desperately hidden despite family connection, would produce three heiresses to the Gucci fortune, whose lives would be marked by tragedy, betrayal, and a legacy of wealth that could neither protect nor console them. The delicate balance of the Gucci marriage began to deteriorate in 1983 when Maurizio's father Rodolfo died, leaving him a 50% stake in the Gucci company and transforming him overnight from disinherited son to powerful heir. With his newfound authority, Maurizio's focus shifted dramatically from his family to the company, a change that Patrizia, despite working as his chief advisor, would later cite as the beginning of their marital collapse. For Alessandra, then only 6 years old, and Allegra, barely 2, their childhood security began to fracture in ways they could not yet comprehend, but would eventually inherit as emotional scars, alongside their material wealth. The breaking point arrived in 1985, when Maurizio told Patrizia he was leaving for a business trip to Florence, only to send a friend the following day to inform her that he would not be returning, and their marriage was over. Unknown to Patrizia, Maurizio had already begun an affair with Cherie McLaughlin, an American woman he met in 1984 while both were in Sardinia, initiating a pattern of romantic entanglements that would fuel his ex-wife's growing rage. By 1990, Maurizio had entered a relationship with Paola Franchi, his childhood friend who had attended his wedding to Patrizia, and by 1991, they were living together in his luxurious Milan apartment. The divorce was finalized in 1994, with Maurizio agreeing to pay Patrizia an annual alimony of $1.47 million, a settlement that did little to soothe her bitterness at losing both her husband and the legal right to use the Gucci name she'd come to identify with so completely. In stark contrast to this acrimonious dissolution, Aldo and Bruna's forbidden relationship had endured decades of secrecy and separation, culminating in a surprising wedding in Palm Springs in 1981, precisely 25 years after they first met in the Rome Gucci boutique. Their small ceremony, attended only by their daughter Patricia and Gloria Luchenbill from Gucci's American advertising department, was made possible by Aldo's discovery that his first marriage had never been officially registered in Italy, allowing him to legally marry Bruna without obtaining a divorce. For Patricia, then 18 years old, the wedding represented a validation of her parents' long-hidden relationship and her own legitimacy, though her existence would remain largely unknown to the wider world. When Aldo died in 1990 at age 84, his New York Times obituary mentioned only his wife, the former Olwyn Price, and 3 sons, Roberto, Giorgio, and Paolo, with no acknowledgement of Patricia or Bruna, maintaining even in death the separation between his 2 families. While Patricia faced the erasure of her connection to the Gucci dynasty, Alessandra and Allegra were about to endure a tragedy that would forever define their lives and relationship to their family name. On March 27, 1995, as Maurizio arrived at his office on Via Palestro in Milan, a hitman approached and fired 4 shots, killing the last Gucci to run the family business and leaving his daughters without a father. In her diary that day, Patrizia Reggiani wrote a single word, paradisos, the Greek word for paradise, and within hours she had arrived at Maurizio's apartment to evict his girlfriend Paola Franchi and her son, claiming ownership rights to the property. 2 years later, Patrizia was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 29 years in prison for orchestrating her ex-husband's murder, a crime that transformed Alessandra and Allegra from privileged heiresses to orphans of tragedy, their mother imprisoned for killing their father. The 3 Gucci daughters, born of love stories that could not have been more different, now shared a common inheritance, extraordinary wealth that could not protect them from the crushing burden of their family's dark legacy. The Gucci daughters navigated early adulthood during the most public murder trial in Italian fashion history, forced to witness their family's most intimate betrayals dissected by international media while simultaneously mourning their father. For Alessandra and Allegra, their mother's conviction created an impossible emotional paradox, maintaining relationship with the woman who killed their father or severing ties with their only remaining parent. Initially, they stood by Patrizia, with Allegra particularly vocal in arguing that her mother's brain tumor had altered her personality and affected her judgment, using her legal education to advocate for reconsidering the case's medical evidence. Their loyalty proved temporary, as adulthood gave them perspective on their mother's manipulation. When Patrizia was released after serving 18 years, the sisters reportedly cut all communication, creating financial independence from the woman who had already taken their father. For Patrizia, this rejection proved financially devastating, despite her nickname, Black Widow, as she famously complained to reporters, "I have nothing, and my children don't help me," a statement that revealed both entitlement and the complete breakdown of maternal bonds. And when Ridley Scott's film House of Gucci thrust their family tragedy back into global spotlight in 2021, Allegra finally broke her decades-long silence, calling the portrayal truly painful, and noting the film incites an old wound and runs away with a story, leaving trails of unpleasant aspersions and shadows. Despite inheriting vast wealth, the sisters received no financial benefit from the Gucci brand itself, which reported revenue exceeding $10 billion in 2023 under the ownership of French luxury conglomerate Kering. They maintained relationships with their father's family, while apparently viewing their mother through the clinical lens that Allegra revealed in a rare interview. Personally, I think my mother has narcissistic personality disorder mixed with other things. While the sisters remain intensely private, Patricia has embraced selective visibility, frequently appearing at fashion events, granting occasional interviews, and accepting her complicated heritage with a pragmatism her cousins reject. Her Palm Desert home renovations have been featured in architectural publications, offering carefully controlled glimpses into her life while maintaining firm boundaries between her public persona and private experiences. In short, as we've seen, the Gucci daughters carry psychological burdens beyond their wealth. Alessandra and Allegra must forever reconcile having a mother who murdered their father, while Patricia navigates being both Gucci heir and decades-long family secret. And now, we'd like to see you in the comments. Were you aware of these Gucci heiresses prior to this video? And what is your opinion on their story? We look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Old Money Luxury. Cheers, until the next time.